that you read, the more things you'll know. The more that you learn, the more places you'll go. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us to read. Reading has the power to open our eyes, open our hearts, and truly transform us.
Assalamu alaikum. We're thrilled to be discussing Lauren Booth's new memoir, In Search of a Holy Land, on today's Muslim Bookshelf. Welcome to the Muslim Bookshelf, Lauren Booth.
Thanks very much, Maz. Nice to be here. I'm a Muslim. I'm a writer and I'm a journalist, and I create content all for the cause of dawah and for forwarding the cause of justice and peace for the Ummah. I wrote about my memoir, which is a journey to Islam via Palestine. It's something I'm very, very passionate about, and I used my story so that I could be an author for other people's stories. So I love to cook, and I like riding bicycles and going for walks in Istanbul, where I live, and history. I'm very passionate about history. As an author, it's the storytelling element, and it is modern politics, but through the lens of people's pain, suffering, hopes and dreams, and above all, Iman. All right, really want my journey to Islam in 10 seconds. I believed in God. I met Muslims. I traveled to Palestine. The people there were so generous and kind, and they knew about Jesus, peace be upon him. And I learnt what it was to be a real, fully realized human being before God, trying to please him. And so I have a big debt of gratitude to the people of Palestine. To any author starting out, I'd say this: look, do what your passion is. Write what your passion is. Don't try and be clever in another area. The experts there are already doing that. Find your niche and then go and tell your stories. And I used to have a sign above my desk: a writer is someone who writes. A writer isn't someone who's busy cleaning the floors or putting off writing, which is something we all do. A writer is someone who writes. So even if day one it's rubbish, day two, day three, discipline is key. My advice to new Muslims is this: don't turn your back on the community, no matter how difficult it might be where you live. You need to find your friendship group, good suhbah, those who are going to bring you closer to Allah Ta'ala. And if that hasn't happened for you yet, keep asking Allah. And above all, 5 daily prayers. Don't ever, ever leave them, inshallah. And Allah will always be with you.
Now, Lauren, we want you to first read a passage from your book, just so that we get a flavour of exactly what that masterpiece contains.
Okay, I'm going to dive right in. You ready? My heart began thumping hard in my ears. Sitting on my bunk, I realised I was high. I didn't want that feeling at all. Being in the jungle had begun to bring me back to myself. Nature, not narcotics, is the rush human beings grow with. My years of tuning out and trying everything on offer had only created a void and a sense of insecurity about who I really was. Feel better now, don't you? Laughed David that evening. I wanted to tell him, no, I'm really angry with you right now. But the prescription narcotic had sealed a plastic grin on my lips. On the 12th of April 2016, almost 10 years after his appearance on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, David Guest was found dead in the Four Seasons hotel suite where he was living in London. It seems he spent his last days alone and, according to friends, strung out on sleeping pills. He was a kind, humorous, funny man, yet in the end, celebrity did nothing for his loneliness, and all his wealth couldn't extend his life by a single heartbeat.
Yeah, very, very poignant. I think viewers will understand the writing style to be so expressive and so full of emotion as well, but also very, very much to the point. Tell us, who is this book for?
This book is a dawah gift to all the people who have confusing ideas about Islam and who don't understand that anybody can be a Muslim. Okay, it's not a Middle Eastern thing, which I thought it was.
Yeah.
It's not for some Pakistanis, you know, in Bradford or in Lahore. It's for humanity. And only by telling these stories of coming from the West to the East,
Yeah.
of waking up and then actually living daily by the laws prescribed by Allah Ta'ala as best as we can other people who were like me 15, 20 years ago actually think, oh, maybe I could do that. Maybe I should look into that. Maybe I should read the Quran. But you know what? It's also, especially for all of our Muslims right now who are lacking confidence in who they are and what we have been given. The people who, or the condition of us when we wake up in the morning and we're like, I don't know if I can do it today. I don't know if I can go into work or college in my hijab. What if you're in France right now?
True.
How difficult is that? You're literally being told to wear tight clothes, show your hair,
Sure.
dress and eat in a certain way. How hard is that reality? I want this, and I wrote this to give us confidence, to know that the journey is real and the end result is victory.
Okay.
Victory over this life.
Okay, so tell me how you are telling this very, very passionate, you know, idea that you want to help others. Tell me about how you've tried to bring that through your book. What themes are you using in your book?
Well, I think the style is important. I trained as an actor and I was on stage for years. The last time I was on stage was actually in 2019,
Okay.
performing a one-woman show at the Edinburgh Fringe. So the way I see writing has always been write as you speak, write what you feel, and write in images. So that means one of the basics of drama training is show, don't tell. So you don't say it was going to be like this, you paint the picture of what it was like.
Yeah.
Okay? And I think, you know, so many people who want to write aren't told that single secret. Show, make us live those moments. So
Yeah.
it really, each chapter is a scene.
Yes.
You know, or several scenes. So you're walking into different rooms.
Okay. So in terms of that particular writing style, this memoir, as it's been described, I suppose, but obviously for me it's more a journey. It sounds very vivid, and it sounds something where the reader actually imagines a lot of scenes being set. What particular scene do you want the viewer to actually, also the reader to actually set in his or her mind?
I don't think there is one scene. Like you say, if you're on a journey, there's a beginning and there's a middle pass. There's you know,
Yeah.
there is the hero's journey.
Yeah.
There's got to be dynamic problems in it that the book ultimately solves.
Yeah.
And so what we're doing is we're watching one human being from childhood come to fruition and fame, and then find their way out of it into what? At first a void and then something else. And I think there's a lot of nostalgia in this. I mean, you're a lot younger than me, I'm sure, but it's definitely, it was fun to revisit the 1970s. It was fun
Sure.
to kind of paint that evocative image where so many of our English parents kind of went out in 1967 and never really came home.
Right.
Right? Back then, a day out for children like me would be, we're going out, kids, great. You'd go in the car to the pub and you'd sit outside the pub with a bag of crisps and, if you were lucky, a Pepsi Cola, and that would be your day out.
Sure.
And then you'd be with your drunk parents and their hippie friends at night. And that is something so strange to the Muslim world.
Yeah.
But it's important to tell these stories because we're damaged people by that. I don't believe in permanent damage, by the way. I believe in drama, not trauma. That's just
Nice
me,
saying
right?
that,
Because
yeah.
drama you can move through. Trauma's with you forever. I don't believe in that stuff. But it was a dramatic moment in British history, and it left a lot of emotional refugees. And if we are trying to heal society, which is the job of the Muslims, then we need to recognise that. So I've really tried to give an eye into that reality.
Okay. So in terms of the eye into that reality, as you very well put it, how does your personal experience actually help shape that book with that, you know, with that mindset?
For me, what's always fascinating For me, what's fascinating are characters,
Yeah.
right? Human interactions. I'm not an academic thinker. I didn't actually go to university,
Okay.
but I get absolutely thrilled by a good accent. You know, there was a woman came up to me in the streets of Üsküdar in Turkey the other day, and she just went, "Ah, you're right, love. Your name, Lauren. You're right." I went, "Oh my God, where are you from? Tell me all about yourself." And my daughter's like, "I knew you were going to do that." She's like, "Oh, I'm from Bolton, and let go of my hands." You know, and so those human interactions are what really excite me. And so
Yeah.
my father really, surprising to me, became a central character. Because although he wasn't practicing what we'd call a religious life, boy, you can get gems from anywhere if Allah wills.
Sure, sure.
Let me give you a gem that he told me. I told him when I was 11, I'm tired of being poor. What was my experience of being poor? Well, he was a famous actor who unfortunately drank his way through all the money, but we lived in an 11-room apartment in Hampstead.
Yes.
But we didn't have much in the fridge. So to me, that's poverty. We used to wash our hair in fairy liquid.
Wow.
We didn't have hot water. The food, you know, there was no food. There was usually a Carlsberg Special Brew and an old onion in the fridge. To me, that was poverty. But to my dad, who'd grown up in Liverpool in the 40s and 50s, we were still rich.
Yeah.
So here's the gem that he gave me. I went in and I said, "I hate being poor." He said, "Listen, we're not poor, we're broke. And it's not where you start, it's where you end up. And you, look at you, you're not bad looking, you've got a pretty good brain, you live in Europe, you've won the lottery of life. Don't
Yeah.
you ever moan." And I thought, wow, and that just took me a long way.
Yeah, I suppose that tells. That's for all of us, really. Your father's word actually resonates with me. I'm sure those who are watching will also feel that, because we sometimes forget the bigger picture. You know, we do have problems in our life, and I think in your book you actually go through that journey, and I can see the personal connection now coming out as we speak. Tell me why you titled it A Holy Land and not The Holy Land.
Good question. So I could have called the book In Search of the Holy Land, because there's a direction. If I called it The Holy Land, well, where would you think I was talking about?
For me, the Holy Land has always been Jerusalem, the Middle East, Makkah, Medina, because of my personal faith, but obviously globally, when you talk about the Abrahamic faiths, the land which is Palestine, Israel, Jordan, you know, that's the connotation that I always think of.
You're right, and most people actually would probably call the Holy Land Palestine, with Jerusalem as its eternal capital. And I wanted to use a holy land because I was looking inside as well as outside. And a lot of people are looking for a holy land, a holy space. And so that journey for me, it didn't go through Buddhism, it went through nihilism, it went through celebrity, it went to consumerism, it went to all of the really base human behaviours before finding a holy space inside, triggered by the people of Islam, triggered by reading the Holy Quran. And that was the opening, but also visiting Palestine as a Christian and being shown real faith by Muslims.
And the thing is, as a Muslim, when I listen to you, you are obviously very, very passionate about Palestinian rights. You know, you are very clear in your mind as to what the sense of what injustice has gone on there, and the struggle of that particular people to overcome those injustices. But for many Muslims they'll be quite surprised that there are, for example, not yourself right now, but back in that guise, a non-Muslim who goes there and actually embraces that struggle as perhaps even their own struggle. Where did that come about, or how did that come about?
Well, what you're asking there is you're kind of giving me exceptionalism, and that's not right. The reason that it's so hard to get into Palestine is because you cannot not be touched by the people and their struggle. So many moves have been made to shut off this border, shut off that border. You can't land at Tel Aviv. You're going to be persecuted if you come here, to put people off that experience. Because actually, the vast majority of non-Muslims I know who engage in any way with tours of the West Bank, doing charity in Gaza, are changed forever. And many consider and do accept Islam as a result.
Wow.
Subhanallah. So I'm not the only one, and maybe the most visible, but you know, certainly Yvonne Ridley, her journey is well known via Afghanistan,
Yeah.
but also her love for Palestine is really, you know, right up there, mashallah. And the activists that I knew activists who were shot in the stomach, European activists, a sister called, I won't say her name, but she's Irish, and she went there, and she again was touched by the people because their generosity is faultless, and they live the practicalities of an Islamic life. And it's like visiting, for me, it was like visiting a different universe.
Sure.
I actually thought they were, what planet are these people from? I thought there was something wrong with the Palestinians at first. I thought they had Stockholm Syndrome. Because I'm like, why are you not angrier?
Yes.
All we see on the news is angry Palestinians or dead Palestinians.
Yeah.
But within all of those moments are Palestinian people who are full of nur, full of light,
Yes.
full of sabr, full of determination not to be bloodthirsty, determination to get their rights, and determination to rely on Allah Ta'ala. And I, by the way, in saying that, I'm in no way denying them the right to resistance enshrined in international law and the correct and the only response to what's happening, to be quite honest. But we must also accept that faith plays a huge part in their ability to survive this.
No, absolutely. And I think again, I'll speak from my perspective, as somebody who's experienced and seen so much Islamophobia, and you said you're giving me exceptionalism. The reason for that is because from my perspective and my experiences, and I'm drawing that on sort of those viewers who perhaps were born into Muslim families and didn't embrace the faith, you then feel actually, you know, there must be something so special about our faith which we're missing, you know, as born Muslims. And I think for us, when we look at your passion, or those of others who became Muslim or reverted to Islam, and they are so passionate about these causes that it puts us to shame. And I think for me, when looking at your book, you are describing a journey, but it has this Palestinian struggle as one of the central features of it. And that is so, again, you know, in some senses, it puts us to shame, because you think, well, why haven't you done the same, you know? There's a lot more we could do individually as Muslims.
You know, converts are interesting in that we know that had Allah Ta'ala not pulled us back and given us Islam,
Yes.
that on the day of judgment, we'd have been thrown into the fire and we'd have gone, yeah, okay, I deserve it. We would have had no comeback.
Sure.
And once you've been like on that spiritual brink and you've come back from it, every day is gratitude day. It's like,
Subhanallah.
you know,
That's amazing.
Subhanallah, you know, we've been taken from the brink by a merciful Lord and
Wow.
given a second chance. We didn't have to wake up in the grave and go, oh, can I go back?
Yeah.
Which the Quran talks about.
Yes.
You know, and to a degree, we'll all want to go back and do better. But that's kind of the excitement about a really deeply lived spiritual life. And, you know, there are practicalities about that. How do you put yourself on the line? A big vein in this is about politics, and
Yes.
I know you're a interested political person as well,
Yes,
right?
I am, yes.
So, you know, I grew up in a political family. My dad was an
Of course.
activist. He was always like, come the revolution, kid, get on a bus, get past with the Watford Gap because we're coming for the South. That's what
Yes, yes, that's
what
right,
he
yeah.
used to wish for. And so really a big part of this is about a mother's journey on how do you teach your children to be human beings. I'm not saying I got it right. I'm saying that there were things that hurt me as a human being so much I couldn't ignore them.
Sure.
So when I took the decision to go on the Free Gaza
Flotilla.
flotilla, the first ever flotilla, it was just 2 ships.
Yes.
It hadn't been tried since, I think, 1974, when the Palestinians organising it were killed. Right, in Cyprus by Mossad.
Yes.
It was risky. And I remember saying goodbye to my daughters and saying, You know, they were 7 and 4, and I said, you know, there are Palestinians.
Wow.
And there are children like you, and they don't have schools, and their schools are being bombed, and they're hungry, and they're being persecuted. And my little girl saying, "Dear God, please bless the Palestinians." They thought there was a big palace and the Indians were being persecuted. I thought, that's all right. You know, and I said, "Do I have your permission to go?" And they said, "Go, Mummy, because those children matter too."
That's amazing.
You know, that's the human spirit.
No, for sure. I mean, going back to for example, tell me about the media-driven Islamophobia and how you address that in your book.
Well, that's kind of, again, it's a direct experience of it, but not in a I refuse victimhood. I absolutely refuse it. We don't have time in this life to sit around bemoaning our state,
Yeah, I like
especially when we're victors, because we know what our state is and we have an idea of the beginning and the end, right? So before I came to Islam, I was very much of the mainstream. Don't hate me, I did write for the Daily Mail and the Mail on Sunday, but I was sort of a conduit for Middle England's hatred.
Sure.
I was the lefty feminist kind of, you know, Bolshi one. My nan used to call me Bolshi and pro-Palestinian, but I have found a space.
Yeah.
By the grace of Allah, I was given this space. And so I was mainstream, but the first time I went on Sky News in hijab, everybody was very nice, but they were shocked.
Yes.
Why? Because we're talking someone who was 1 week heavy drinking, mainstream Lauren, turning up with a hangover. Now she's months later, she's in hijab. So I remember walking through the Sky News building and everyone's going, "Hi, Lauren." And I could see in the mirrors, they're going, "What?" like this. And then going into the makeup lounge, the makeup area rather, and the lady who'd done my makeup for like 10 years going, "Hi, Lauren." "Oh, no hair today then." And everyone was very nice.
Yes.
There was only one difference. 2 days later, I got a phone call from a producer I'd known for 10 years saying, "Sorry, Lauren, we're going to let you go."
Wow.
Nothing personal, we're just switching things around. And I've got no evidence. It's to do with hijab. In fact, it's not directly to do with hijab. Because as you know, there are, alhamdulillah, hard-working journalists who have fought their way onto screen and are succeeding every single day, mashallah. But they ain't white.
No.
They ain't English.
So it's the picture they wanted to avoid.
Right, because listen, in the mainstream, Islamophobia works in latent ways, and in obvious ways, and in less obvious ways. And one of the ways it works is, oh, it's their little religion. It's their little foreign religion, leave them be.
Yeah.
Right? Which is probably the best of it, to be quite honest. But what if you're white English from a mainstream family who's worked for the mainstream, and now you believe and accept that Allah is one, and the Prophet Muhammad is the last prophet?
Yes.
You've either lost your mind, had a nervous breakdown, or something's gone badly wrong. You cannot be on screen.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's a kind of interesting one.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is probably due to the absence, or certainly over the last few decades, the taking away any aspect of spirituality from life. And I think that's a symptom of a wider malaise. But anyway, that's probably not the topic of today's discussion.
We'll come back to
I'm sure we could probably delve into that at another point. Tell me about the exploration of purpose and the meaning of life in your book.
So, like I say, I was a child who always prayed because it seemed obvious to me that my parents had some control over what they were doing, but not a lot.
Yes.
And then my grandmother, she ran things. We were a very maternalistic family.
Wow.
And but God ran everything. But then, you know, when your teenage years hit, two things happen. One, you think you've realised everything that there is to know, and everybody else is an idiot.
That's right.
And then secondly, your hormones kick in and the interest in the opposite sex, whatever your interest is, it goes off the Richter scale, and you can get very lost for a long time. So both of those things hit. I stopped praying as a teenager and I went full throttle and I joined a cult.
Okay.
Yeah, the cult of me.
Okay.
Looking in the mirror and going, "You're amazing. Yeah, go nail it," you know. I was the cult of Lauren for a good 20 years. It only had one member, but boy, she was very passionate. And sort of just thinking that the world revolved around me and that everybody was a bit part in my drama series.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? I think most people do that now unconsciously.
I think they do. I think they do. I think you're absolutely right. You put it really, really well. I mean, I think to feel you're part of a bigger plan, Allah's plan, is something. It comes afterwards, especially when you get a few knockbacks in life. Does that feature in your book, a few knockbacks in life?
Everybody has them. You don't get to live half a century, thanks be to God we've made it this far. I'm saying we, you're probably about 30, are you? Right? So you don't get to be this age without the same amount of knockbacks as everybody else. I have been very wealthy and I have had nothing. I've had marriages and I've had the worst of divorces. And I've had, 48 months when I just thought, I don't know what is going on anymore. And that was the preparation for Islam. I lost, my husband had a motorbike accident. He was going to divorce me anyway. It was horrible. He had to learn to eat again and to sit up again. It was really tough for him, tough for the family. Got accused of kidnapping, ended up in the High Court of London. My children, by the way, which I won the case, which was horrendous. Lost my home, lost everything in dunya I lost, until I put my head to the ground and I remember crying.
Wow.
And I hadn't taken my Shahada yet, and just going, please Allah, just my kids.
Incredible.
Just my kids. I get it now. It wasn't the house or the pool. It wasn't any living in the south of France. It wasn't, just my kids. I don't care, just my kids. And you really then realise what life is about.
Wow.
And how do you come back from that? You go, oh, I didn't need the car and the house, so I'm okay. So I get to give a lot more. And I get to be somebody new, and I get to just be very simple and plain and pray and do good deeds. If, inshallah, I'm not a good person. I'm like, oh, I'm so good. We're all a work in progress, but you get to progress.
And I suppose if somebody, and we all have our struggles in life, nobody can say that they don't. Somebody who's, let's say, one of our, viewers, is going through that pain and that suffering, they'll be looking for something to cling on to. What do you say is the cling on?
Not me. I'm not your life raft, okay? What we're exploring in my writings is where to look, is the direction. We can be a signpost to something. Oi, it's over here.
Yes.
And I remember the first time I picked up the Quran, I picked it up because I believed that it was a guidebook for manners and goodness, because that's what I saw from the people who'd given it me in Palestine.
Wow.
And I thought, I need to know how to be a human being. And it was exactly what that thought was, and so much more. You will be guided by the Quran if you go with an open heart. Just help me, God. This is what I say too. I gave a copy of the Quran in English just 2 days ago to an English woman who'd had a tummy tuck on a plane, and she was in terrible pain, and she was crying and saying, I nearly died and I'm very selfish. I said, no. And she took the Quran, because we all need guidance.
Yes.
So don't walk away from it. If imagine you've got a brand new phone. We used to have when we had computers, we'd have to figure out what to do with it. And I worked it out my own and crashed 2 very expensive Macs, by the way. I took one of my Macs into the shop and he said, how have you got into this? Seriously, you'd have to do 20 years of coding to go this deep. And I was just going, read the manual, go online, do the YouTube video. We have been given the ultimate YouTube video, right? Much, much more than that. I always would be left for the comparison, right?
Yeah.
We've got the guidebook on how to do this.
Wow. As I say, anybody watching out there, there's your answer. But I was going to go back to the book and ask you, you speak about your father very, with a lot of, emotion, and also your grandmother. How do you think they would react to reading this book?
Oh, that's a nice question. Oh, I can't speak like my dad, because he'd always say something like, "Oh, bloody hell, how are you doing?" he'd say, I think he'd be happy with it, because the discussion at the end is so moving. The last words that he said as I exited the room that he died in were, "Always remember the poor."
Wow.
Always remember the poor. And my grandmother, well, that's really interesting. I think she'd see a light in me now that meant I was worshipping God.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't think she'd care much about. She'd go, oh, that was then, and she liked a good story, but she'd be more interested in what have you found.
Wow. Okay. So, do you think, Sister Lauren Booth,
Yeah.
did you find the Holy Land?
Alhamdulillah. Of course. By the grace of Allah, the Holy Land within is the connection and the subservience to Allah Ta'ala, to do what He says, when He says to do it. And the Holy Land that we go to the Kaaba. And and that's the hardship. That's where we have to work hard in order to get forgiven. And then we go to Medina, which is about love, and you cry and you say Allahumma salli alayhi wa sallam. And I just did that this year.
Wow.
I actually went to Al-Aqsa as a Muslim
Subhanallah.
in Ramadan. Don't start me off, I'm not going to cry. I'm a Scouser,
We're
what can I say? And that was like a reward in this life.
Subhanallah.
You know, please go to Al-Aqsa, everybody, because, you know, those three places are holy for a reason.
Okay, well, let me ask you another question. How did you get Nikki Campbell, a mainstream media person in this country?
Yeah.
You know, if you watch, well, if you listen to radio, you can't miss Nikki Campbell on BBC 5 Live. He wrote a review for your book, and it's quite glowing in praise. What do you think? What's the significance of that? Because I think it's very significant.
Well, first of all, how it happened was really interesting. Basically, about 5 years ago, when there was a talk about a burqa ban,
yes,
and it all began to really heat up in France, right? And he made a tweet, Nikki, and I'd worked with Nikki on 5 Live, as I had with everybody for years.
Yes.
And so I knew him, and he made a tweet, and he said something like, "I would rather see my 15-year-old daughter naked on a beach than dressed like a seal or a lamp or a letterbox." It was something really derogatory, unnecessary, and beneath him. And so I just tweeted back, I said, this is an absolute disgrace. When women are having guns put to their heads and told to undress on beaches, this you do? I said, I call on every Muslim who's following me, and I had about 50,000 followers on Twitter, to get in touch with Nikki Campbell and tell him about his life. Right? 2 hours later, he sent me a DM. Lauren, call off your friends, because I'm absolutely deluged here. I said, sorry, Nikki. Don't you think I think you deserve it? Lauren, what would your prophet do? I went, oh, no, that's not, you know? So I had to think, he's right. He's right. This is not debate. It's turned into bullying. So I put out a tweet and said, everybody is contacting Nikki Campbell. Can we please keep it calm and nice? At the end of the day, he's a human being seeking his way.
Sure.
And it calmed down. And from that, we started a discussion in the DMs. Tell me about this. Why do you wear this? Why do you wear that? And it was very, very pleasant. So when my book came out, I said, do you want to read it? He said, yeah. And then he sent me about 6 lines, some of which were a fascinating read. I couldn't put it down. I said, I'm going to put that on the front cover. And he went, go on then, I dare you. And I went, done. And so I've got a review from Nikki Campbell. So what do we get from this? Look, keep the channels of communication open and never resort to bullying. You know, that's not the prophetic way.
Well, Sister Lauren, an absolutely fantastic experience for me, sitting and talking to you and listening to you. Certainly a few lessons for me, that's for sure.
Bless you.
I think viewers, you'll all understand more about Sister Lauren and her journey through her book, In Search of a Holy Land, a captivating memoir of adventure, faith and personal transformation, prepared to embark on an extraordinary journey of self-discovery and transformation in search of a Holy Land. This compelling memoir, authored by the multi-talented Lauren Booth, presents a unique blend of brisk honesty, sharp humour and profound insight that is set to captivate readers around the world. This highly anticipated re-release promises to be an unmissable addition to your literary collection. Thank you for joining us on the Muslim Bookshelf, discussing Lauren Booth's In Search of a Holy Land, a captivating memoir of adventure, faith and personal transformation. And don't forget to check out the book and experience the powerful journey for yourself. Wa alaikum assalam.
For more inspiring books, check out our weekly reading list. The Book of Assistance by Imam Abdullah ibn Alawi al-Haddad. Beginning of Guidance by Imam al-Ghazali. Agenda to Change Your Condition by Sheikh Hamza Youssef and Imam Zaid Shakir.